Have you ever sat in the stillness of your own silence, only to realize it wasn't bringing you peace, but pain? You told yourself you were being strong, that walking away, going quiet, disappearing would speak louder than anything you could say. And deep down, maybe you hoped she'd feel your absence, regret her choices, and come searching for you. But instead, she moved on. Or at least it seemed that way. Smiling, posting, living like you never mattered. And here you are, alone with your silence, not as a shield, but as a prison. If that struck something in you, stay with me. Because this moment, this quiet ache you're sitting in, is not weakness. It's not defeat. It's the beginning of something powerful, if you choose to let it be. You see, most men misunderstand silence. They think if they stop reaching out, they're winning, that not calling or texting somehow reclaims their power. But silence, on its own, is empty. And when it's fueled by resentment, fear, or hidden longing, it doesn't communicate strength, it whispers weakness. Women can feel that. People sense that. It doesn't draw them closer. It confirms they made the right decision to leave. But here's where Stoic wisdom enters the picture. Because silence, real, grounded, dignified silence, isn't about what you stop doing. It's about who you start becoming. In this video, we're not going to talk about tricks or emotional manipulation. We're going to go deeper, into ancient principles that still hold their weight in this modern, messy world. We'll explore why your silence isn't being felt, and how to transform it into something unshakable. Not as revenge, not as a game, but as a return to the only thing that ever mattered, your inner power. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And in your case, the highest power isn't in hoping she regrets losing you. It's in becoming the man who no longer needs to be chosen. So if you're tired of waiting, if you're ready to turn your silence from something that hurts into something that heals and rebuilds, then this is your moment. Let's begin. 5 Stoic truths about why your silence isn't working and how to make it matter. Number 1. Impotent silence is not strength, it's delayed suffering. Too many men mistake absence for power. They vanish, they stop calling, they delete numbers and think the work is done. But deep inside, they're still clinging. Still checking her social media. Still replaying the last conversation. That isn't Stoic strength. That's emotional paralysis dressed up as strategy. Epictetus taught us, it's not things that upset us, but our judgments about them. If your silence is filled with the hope that she'll return, then you haven't truly let go. You've just gone quiet while staying emotionally anchored. And she can feel that. Women sense energy before they hear words. If your silence is soaked in longing, she won't feel regret, she'll feel relief. A real-life example? A man who stops reaching out but secretly waits for a response is like someone who stops speaking during an argument but keeps shouting inside his head. That's not peace. It's pressure building in the wrong direction. Number 2. Real silence begins when you no longer seek to be heard. True silence isn't the absence of communication, it's the presence of purpose. You don't stop talking to make her chase. You stop because your mind is no longer revolving around her. You've chosen to redirect your time, energy, and emotions into building something that doesn't include her. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself." When you stop performing, stop pretending, stop waiting, and start being, that's when silence becomes transformation. Think of the man who no longer needs to post subtle messages online, no longer needs to project calm. He's actually calm. He's busy reading again, lifting again, creating again. This silence isn't cold, it's disciplined. It's not punishment, it's a personal rebirth. Number 3. She doesn't feel your absence because you haven't changed your presence. If you're still the same man emotionally, just quieter, why would that stir anything in her? Real silence doesn't echo unless the man behind it has shifted. As Seneca said, "Throw me to the wolves and I will return, leading the pack." Don't vanish to prove a point. Vanish to make space for a new self. And when that new version of you walks into a room, stronger, steadier, less available, it will speak volumes. For instance, picture 2 men who go silent after a breakup. One is stuck, secretly hoping she notices. The other is training 5 days a week, learning a new trade, reading Marcus Aurelius at sunrise, and journaling with clarity. Which one will she notice when she finally looks again? Number 4. Masculine energy must move, not dwell. Stillness is not the same as stagnation. True Stoic silence is not about doing nothing. It's about doing what matters, without explanation. You don't announce your growth, you live it. You don't perform progress, you embody it. Seneca put it simply, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The longer you sit and replay the past, the more you delay the future you could be building. That woman wasn't the destination, she was a chapter. But the story continues, and you are still the author. Take a moment to reflect. What if all the energy you've spent analyzing her actions was redirected into mastering your finances, your health, your craft? You wouldn't need her to look back. The world would start looking at you differently. Number 5, you don't become irresistible by disappearing, but by evolving. Disappearing doesn't make you unforgettable. Becoming better, steadily, silently, and sincerely, does. If she ever feels your absence, it won't be because you stop showing up. It'll be because someone else starts noticing who you've become. And here's the secret. That someone else might be you. Because when a man becomes proud of himself, not because of who he's dating, but because of who he's becoming, his presence changes. He's not performing masculinity. He is masculinity, focused, unbothered, directed. And when that day comes, when you finally see that the silence wasn't a punishment, but a pilgrimage, you'll smile, not because she missed you, but because you no longer miss who you were. Silent men, two paths, how strength reveals itself and weakness hides behind words. Let's draw a clear line in the sand, because sometimes the only way to see truth is through contrast. Stoicism is not about cold detachment, it's about powerful discernment. And in moments like these, when silence is misunderstood or misused, it helps to hold two lives side by side. The man who uses silence to hide and the man who uses it to rise. One man falls silent because he's hurt, but he masks that hurt behind pride. He pretends not to care, yet he watches her stories, checks who liked her posts, rewrites imaginary conversations in his mind. His silence is a cover, not a choice. It's a quiet cry, not a calm stand. On the surface he seems distant, but inside he's emotionally tethered, still dancing around the gravity of someone who's already moved on. Now compare that to the man who also chooses silence, but with intention. He's not ghosting, he's growing. He's not avoiding, he's evolving. He doesn't seek to be missed, he seeks to become undeniable. While the first man waits, hoping his absence will provoke curiosity, the second man is already knee-deep in progress. He's rebuilding routines, refining values, re-establishing his direction in life. His silence is not passive, it's charged with movement. And that difference, between standing still and moving forward quietly, is everything. There's another contrast worth mentioning. The man who lives in reaction versus the man who chooses response. When she posts something provocative or cold, does it stir you? Does it shake your calm? Or do you remain anchored in who you are and what you're becoming? One man checks his phone for signs of validation. The other checks his calendar for his next step in personal growth. The first is waiting for external change. The second is the change. Stoicism teaches that we should not be disturbed by events, but by the judgment we place on them. And this is where we see the final contrast. The man who lets silence become a cage, and the man who makes it a crucible. One remains stuck, emotionally orbiting the past. The other uses silence to burn away weakness, to confront the uncomfortable truth of who he was, and then to build again. So ask yourself this, are you silent because you're afraid to speak? Or because you have more important things to say with your life than with your words? One is fear, the other is philosophy in motion. And here's the beautiful twist. When you cross that line, when you stop chasing her perception and start shaping your own evolution, people feel it. She might, others will. But most importantly, you will. Because in the end, silence doesn't fool anyone. But it can forge a man who doesn't need to explain himself ever again. If there's one truth you take away from this journey, let it be this. Silence without growth is just a pause in suffering. But silence rooted in purpose, in self-respect, in inner transformation, that silence carries weight. It speaks in actions, in energy, in presence. It's not about punishing someone with your absence. It's about honoring your own evolution so fully that you no longer feel the need to be seen to know your worth. You don't need to prove you've changed. You need to be the change. You don't need to chase to feel valued. You need to live in a way that radiates value. When you reclaim your energy from the past and redirect it toward your purpose, people don't just notice. You become unforgettable, not because you vanished, but because you became undeniable. So as you move forward, ask yourself not, will they miss me? But will I respect the man I'm becoming? That question is the compass. Let it guide your discipline, your mindset, your choices. And if this message stirred something in you, if you're ready to stop watching life from the sidelines and start rebuilding with purpose, then this is your space. Subscribe to Ultimate Stoicism and walk with a community that chooses stillness with strength, silence with clarity, and life with intention. Drop your thoughts below. What part of today's message hit home the most? Let's grow together. This journey isn't over, it's just beginning.